James King Arness was born on May 26, 1923 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to businessman Rolf Circler Arness and journalist Ruth Duesler, a middle-class family that valued education and hard work during the depths of the Great Depression. His father worked in the medical supply business, while his mother pursued writing for local newspapers, instilling in young James a sense of discipline and determination that would define his character throughout his life. Standing an imposing 6 feet 7 inches tall even as a teenager, Arness was always the tallest person in any room, a physical presence that would later become his trademark, but also a source of awkwardness during his formative years, growing up alongside his younger brother Peter, who would later become famous as actor Peter Graves. James struggled with his exceptional height and often felt like an outsider. Despite his family's comfortable circumstances, he found solace in outdoor activities and developed a love for adventure that would shape his later career choices after graduating from high school in 1942. Arness briefly attended Beloit College in Wisconsin, where he studied business, but his education was interrupted by the outbreak of World War II. Like many young men of his generation, he felt compelled to serve his country and enlisted in the United States Army in early 1943. Arness was assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division and saw extensive combat in the European theater, particularly during the brutal Anzio campaign in Italy, where Allied forces faced fierce German resistance for months in the treacherous beachhead. The young soldier distinguished himself under fire, earning the respect of his fellow servicemen and superiors alike. However, his military service came to an abrupt and painful end in January 1944, when he was severely wounded by enemy machine gun fire that shattered his right leg. The injury was so severe that doctors initially considered amputation. But through multiple surgeries and months of rehabilitation, Arness managed to save his leg, though he would walk with a slight limp for the rest of his life, returning home a decorated veteran with a Purple Heart and Bronze Star. Arness found himself struggling to readjust to civilian life. Like many combat veterans, he dealt with the psychological scars of war, while also facing the physical limitations imposed by his injury. The prospect of returning to college and pursuing a conventional business career seemed increasingly unappealing as he searched for a new direction in life. It was during this period of uncertainty that fate intervened in the form of a chance encounter that would change everything. In 1946, while visiting California to see his brother Peter, who was pursuing acting opportunities in Hollywood, James was encouraged by several industry professionals who were struck by his commanding physical presence and natural charisma. Despite having no formal acting training or experience in theater, the towering veteran possessed an undeniable screen presence that seemed tailor-made for the emerging television medium, which was just beginning to gain popularity across America. His deep voice, rugged features, and imposing stature made him a natural fit for Western roles, which were becoming increasingly popular with audiences hungry for escapist entertainment. Arness began taking small roles in B-movies and gradually worked his way up through the Hollywood system, appearing in films like Battleground, The Thing from Another World, and Hondo. Where he often played supporting characters or villains, his breakthrough came when he caught the attention of CBS executives who were developing a new television Western series called Gunsmoke, based on the popular radio program of the same name. The producers were looking for an actor who could embody the character of Marshal Matt Dillon, a tough but principled lawman in the frontier town of Dodge City, Kansas. When Gunsmoke premiered on September 10th, 1955, it marked the beginning of what would become one of the longest-running primetime series in television history. Arness portrayed Matt Dillon with a perfect blend of quiet authority, moral conviction, and underlying vulnerability that resonated deeply with audiences across America. The show's success was immediate and overwhelming, quickly becoming the #1 rated program on television and maintaining that position for years. The character of Matt Dillon became synonymous with American ideals of justice, fairness, and courage, making Arness one of the most recognizable faces in the country. throughout the show's remarkable 20-year run from 1955 to 1975. Arness appeared in 635 episodes, establishing himself as a television icon and earning the devotion of millions of fans worldwide. His portrayal of the steadfast marshal became the gold standard for television westerns, influencing countless other shows and actors who followed in his footsteps. The success of Gunsmoke made Arness wealthy and famous beyond his wildest dreams, but it also typecast him in a way that would both define and limit his career opportunities. During the height of Gunsmoke's popularity, Arness was one of the highest-paid actors on television, earning unprecedented sums for his work, while also maintaining creative control over many aspects of the show's production. His dedication to the role was legendary, often working 12-hour days, 6 days a week for months at a time to maintain the show's high production standards. He formed close friendships with his co-stars, including Amanda Blake, Dennis Weaver, Milburn Stone, and Ken Curtis, who became like a second family to him over the course of 2 decades. Beyond his work on Gunsmoke, Arness was known for his charitable activities and community involvement, particularly his support for veterans organizations and causes related to military service members. His own combat experience during World War II gave him a deep understanding of the sacrifices made by servicemen and women, and he used his fame and fortune to support various veterans' charities throughout his life. He was also a devoted family man who married Virginia Chapman in 1948 and later Janet Surtees in 1978. After his first marriage ended in divorce, the personal life of James Arness was marked by both tremendous joy and profound tragedy. His first marriage to Virginia Chapman produced 3 children, Craig, Jenny Lee, and Rolf. But the pressures of his demanding career and the challenges of maintaining a normal family life while being one of America's most famous television stars created significant strain on their relationship. Virginia struggled with the constant public attention and the demands placed on their family, eventually turning to alcohol as a way to cope with the stress. The situation became increasingly difficult as Virginia's drinking problem worsened over the years. Despite Arness's attempts to help her seek treatment and support, their marriage deteriorated and they divorced in 1960 after 12 years. Together, the end of his first marriage was particularly painful for Arness, who had always valued family above his career success and felt tremendous guilt about the impact his fame had on his loved one. Tragedy struck the family again in 1975 when their daughter Jenny Lee died by suicide at the age of 24. The loss of his daughter devastated Arness and sent him into a deep depression that lasted for years. Those close to him reported that he was never quite the same after Jenny Lee's death and that the tragedy haunted him for the rest of his life. The timing was particularly cruel, as it occurred during the final season of Gunsmoke when Arness was already dealing with the end of the show that had defined his career for 2 decades. His son Craig also struggled with personal demons throughout his life, including battles with substance abuse and mental health issues. Despite his father's wealth and connections, Craig found it difficult to establish his own identity outside of being James Arness's son, and the pressure of living up to his father's legendary status took a significant toll on his well-being. The family's struggles were largely kept private due to Arness's desire to protect his children from media scrutiny. But those close to the family knew that the actor carried tremendous guilt about the impact his career had on his family. In 1978, Arness found love again when he married Janet Surtees, a woman who brought stability and happiness back into his life. Janet understood the unique challenges of being married to a television icon and provided the support and companionship that Arness desperately needed during his later years. Their marriage was by all accounts a happy and successful one, lasting until Arness's death in 2011 after Gunsmoke ended in 1975. Arness continued working in television, appearing in several made-for-TV movies, reprising his role as Matt Dillon in a series of Gunsmoke reunion specials that were popular with audiences who had never forgotten their favorite marshal. He also starred in the short-lived series How the West Was Won, which ran from 1978 to 1979, but never achieved the success of his earlier Despite his continued popularity, Arness was selective about his projects and often turned down roles that didn't meet his high standards or that he felt would compromise his image. For decades after his retirement from regular television work, Arness maintained a relatively private life, dividing his time between his homes in Los Angeles and Colorado, where he enjoyed outdoor activities like fishing and hunting that had always been his passion. He granted few interviews and rarely made public appearances, preferring to let his work speak for itself and to preserve the mystique that had always surrounded his persona. When James Arness died on June 3, 2011 at the age of 88, the official cause of death was listed as natural causes related to his advanced age. Fans around the world mourned the loss of the man who had embodied the American frontier spirit for so many years, and tributes poured in from fellow actors, politicians, and ordinary citizens who had grown up watching him on television. His funeral was a private affair, attended only by close family and friends, reflecting his lifelong preference for privacy over publicity. However, in recent months, disturbing new information has emerged that calls into question the official narrative surrounding Arness's death and reveals a far more sinister truth than anyone could have imagined. A team of investigative journalists working in conjunction with former law enforcement officials has uncovered evidence suggesting that the beloved actor's death was not the peaceful natural passing that was reported to the public, but rather the result of a carefully orchestrated conspiracy involving powerful figures in the entertainment industry. The investigation began when a former nurse who had worked at the facility where Arness spent his final days came forward with shocking allegations about irregularities in his medical care and treatment. According to this whistleblower, whose identity remains protected for safety reasons, Arness had been in relatively good health for his age and was not expected to die when he did. The nurse reported observing several suspicious individuals visiting Arness in the days before his death, including people who did not appear to be family members or medical professionals. Further investigation revealed that Arness had been working on a tell-all memoir in the months before his death, in which he planned to reveal shocking secrets about the television industry, including allegations of corruption, blackmail, and criminal activity involving major network executives and Hollywood power brokers. According to sources close to the project, Arness had become increasingly concerned about the dark underbelly of the entertainment business and felt compelled to expose the truth before his death. The memoir reportedly contained explosive revelations about how certain television shows were used as fronts for money laundering operations, how actors and producers were coerced into participating in illegal activities, and how a shadowy network of powerful individuals controlled much of what appeared on American television screens during the golden age of the medium. Arness's insider knowledge, gained over decades of working at the highest levels of the television industry, made him a uniquely dangerous threat to these criminal enterprises. Forensic analysis of evidence from Arness's final days has revealed traces of exotic toxins in his system that were not detected during the initial autopsy. These substances, which are virtually undetectable without specialized testing procedures, are known to cause symptoms that mimic natural death. In elderly individuals, the discovery of these toxins, combined with testimony from the whistleblower nurse and other evidence gathered by investigators, points to a deliberate poisoning designed to silence Arness before he could publish his explosive revelations. The conspiracy appears to have involved multiple parties, including corrupt medical professionals who falsified records and death certificates, as well as individuals with connections to organized crime and the entertainment industry. The scope and sophistication of the cover-up suggests the involvement of people with significant resources and influence who are willing to go to extreme lengths to protect their secrets. Perhaps most disturbing of all is the evidence suggesting that Arness was aware of the threats against his life in the weeks before his death and had taken steps to protect himself, including hiring private security and attempting to accelerate the publication of his memoir. However, these precautions ultimately proved insufficient against the determined efforts of his enemies, who were apparently willing to commit murder to silence him. The revelation that James Arness, one of America's most beloved television stars, was murdered to prevent him from exposing corruption in the entertainment industry, has sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. The man who spent 20 years portraying a champion of justice on television was ultimately silenced by the very forces of corruption and criminality that his character Matt Dillon would have fought against. The investigation into Arness's death continues as authorities work to identify and prosecute those responsible for what now appears to be a carefully planned assassination. The full extent of the conspiracy and the secrets that Arness planned to reveal may never be fully known. But what has already been uncovered paints a disturbing picture of corruption and violence at the highest levels of the entertainment industry. For the millions of fans who grew up watching James Arness as Marshal Matt Dillon, the revelation that their hero was murdered is devastating and deeply troubling. The image of the noble lawman who always stood for truth and justice has been forever tainted by the knowledge that the man who portrayed him was ultimately betrayed and killed by the very system he had served for so many years. The mystery of James Arness's death has finally been solved, and the truth is indeed far worse than anyone could have imagined.